Hey, 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 hello everyone. Welcome to Five Lug Racing. We are back. It is 2025. We have racing this weekend at Bowman Gray Stadium. I am so excited to be here with you, Ryan, of course. I'm excited for all of our fans and our future guests that are going to be with us. Man, we just went through our first off season, 3.5 months without anything, man. I don't know about you. I've been watching races on YouTube and all that good stuff just to get that fix in. But man, I'm so excited. Today we're going to spend some time and talk about Bowman Gray and the Clash. They changed it up on us all the way from LA to the East Coast. Man, Ryan, how you doing, bud? Are you excited as I am?
Oh man, I am pumped. I'm amped. 2025. Happy New Year, everybody. Formally, happy new race season. I am excited. It is go time again in NASCAR. Um, yeah, it's great to be back. Great to be doing this again, and our first full season with five lug racing. As we started this mid season last year and really finished strong. So yeah, I'm really looking forward to this year. It's going to be fun. It's going to be really fun.
Absolutely, man. I mean, it's crazy that we've already been through 3 months of an off season. We went through everything with the playoffs last year. You and I linked up in the summertime last year and got a show fired up. And now here we are. We are starting our very first full season. Like you said, we get the Clash this weekend. We get Daytona in 2 weeks, and we get a little bit of a Super Bowl there in between. So that's always good. If I remember correctly, I got a little bit of an Eagles fan over here on.
Yeah, go birds. We're in the
Congratulations,
fall.
man. That's awesome. Good stuff.
Yeah,
What do
I
you got
get.
as far as Bowman Gray, man? Let's talk entry list. Let's talk odds. Let's talk favorites. Let's go.
I am so excited for Bowman Gray. Bringing the Clash back to a track that really is the roots of NASCAR. We're returning to our roots as far as NASCAR is concerned, and that's what the fans wanted, right? The fans were very vocal about going out to LA, turning a football stadium into a racetrack just to dig it up and make it a football stadium again. Well, you bring this race over to the West Coast from the West Coast to the East Coast, and now you're at a racetrack that has a football stadium in the middle of it. So it's but no, Bowman Gray is a historic racetrack, and it's NASCAR roots. It's a quarter-mile track, which is it's the same size as what we raced on out in LA. um, except the only difference is I would say that these have actual straightaways with turns versus that boat out straightaway that you
Right.
saw at the LA Coliseum.
Almost shaped like a football, which made it kind of awkward as far as a short track is concerned.
Right, right, and I mean at Bowman Gray, it's a legit track, and NASCAR took the money that they probably would have spent and probably saved some, honestly, and made renovations at Bowman Gray. They put the safer barrier in over the winter. The track looks excellent. With the what do you want to call it, the refreshing that they did to this track, the restorations that they made
Right.
to make it NASCAR Cup ready and to accommodate all these fans that are going to flock in here. If I'm not mistaken, this event is sold out. It's been a hot ticket. We're in the heart of racing, and we're knocking the rust off at a historic venue. I'm just excited. I'm very, very excited to see what type of racing we're going to get out here, Don. I mean, we talked about the track difference, right? That straightaway, obviously it changes your carry, your how you carry into the turns. So I'm curious, what type of racing do you think that we're going to see here? Is it going to be similar to the Coliseum? Is it going to look a little the same, a little different?
I think it's going to be, with the short track aspect, it's going to have its similarities, but I think being 3,000 miles apart, you're going to have so many variables that come into play. You're talking about different temperatures. It looks like it's going to be much cooler at Bowman Gray than it would be at the LA Coliseum, where they were getting 70 degrees and, kind of a slick racetrack. Whereas out in the East Coast, it's going to be cool. The cars are going to be sticking to the racetrack a little bit better. Maybe some more opportunities for passing in the turns, not as much in the straightaways. They don't have a lot of space to work with, but they'll really be able to use those corners and put their cars in positions that they probably couldn't have done at the LA Coliseum. I, for one, am excited for the switch back to the East Coast. I think it's really important that NASCAR has listened to the fans. I know a lot of our fans and a lot of our followers wanted Daytona as the Clash, but the problem was nobody was showing up. So,
Right.
NASCAR had to make a decision. If we're not going to put butts in seats, then we're going to go move it to where we can fill a stadium. They went to
Hmm.
Bowman Gray. It's sold out like that. So I think the racing is going to be really, really good. I think there's a handful of drivers that can really set the tone for their season this weekend. And that's going to be really important because even though this isn't a points race, you don't want to start off slow. You want to take advantage and get as much information as you possibly can. Utilize it at your short tracks, your Bristols, your Martinsvilles, et cetera, et cetera. Take advantage of this weekend for what it is. See where your team's at as a whole, and head into Daytona with some steam, man. I think it's going to be some really good racing this weekend.
Yeah, I agree, and you bring up a very very good point about the wanting to start your season off with a bang, right? And not in the bang that you're in a wreck or in the wall,
Right.
but with momentum, some good feedback that you can correlate. You mentioned Martinsville, and I would say that this track, even though it's a quarter mile racetrack, um, and the shape of the racetrack, the braking package is probably something that you could look at here that might correlate to a Martinsville. Now, Martinsville, you're going to carry a little bit more speed because it's a longer straightaway. Whereas a Bristol, maybe, not as much notes comparison because of the
True.
simple fact that you have a higher speed and higher banked track.
Right.
But I really like that comparison to a Martinsville, which leads me into uh, you know the similar racing that we've seen at LA Coliseum the last couple of years, and the racing that we've seen at Martinsville, as a whole with this next gen car, um, you know, kind of plays into where we've seen some of these quote unquote Vegas odds, coming in, and I wanted to get to that a little bit. Of course, we got a new season, which means there are a lot of faces and new places, and I don't want to dive too deep into that right now because as Daytona approaches, we have a whole preseason 2025 season preview that we're going to do.
Right.
And we'll really dive into that a lot more. Um, but one of the drivers I want to talk about right off of the jump here is a face in a new place. And maybe this is a breath of fresh air for him. Um, and taking over a seat of the retired Martin Truex Jr. I'm talking about the 19 car and driver Chase Briscoe. Chase Briscoe, as we know, courtesy of Christopher Bell last year, was taking over Martin Truex's ride. And, he's a new face in a new place and just trying to get his bearings on um, how he's going to work with his spotter, his new crew chief, his new team. He's driving a Toyota now versus the Ford at Stewart Haas that he was in before. And
Or 14.
um, yeah, and I just want to say that to come out in your first race with a new team and looking at the Vegas odds, Don, tell him who's he tied with as number one overall odds to win this race.
It really is incredible. And we were going over this information earlier. It kind of shocked both of us, but it also, once we broke it down, we were like, well, this really isn't that shocking. He's right up there with Kyle Larson at plus 800 favorite odds to win. They are tied with Chase Briscoe and Kyle Larson. That is incredible for somebody heading into a new team. Like you said, it's a breath of fresh air. They still got to get everybody used to each other. Chase has to get used to the crew chiefs and the system and all that good stuff, but they are not messing around. Clearly, something is sparked with this 19 team that has the odds in favor of him to win this thing, tied with Kyle Larson. You're talking about a guy in Kyle Larson who can win in anything. You put him on a skateboard with no wheels, and he's going to go win a race somewhere on it. It's incredible. But
Yeah,
Chase Briscoe, breath of fresh air, brand new team, just had himself a set of twins there with his wife. That's going incredible. If y'all follow his social media, they are adorable. I love seeing all their posts and stuff. But Chase, I think he's going to have a really strong season. It's going to be really sharp, and it's going to be, like you said, it's going to be a lift. It's going to be like a weight off of his shoulders, where he can just go out there and drive and do his thing.
yeah. I mean, that's just. I was shocked, but I'm not all at the same time because if you look at these odds, the plus 800, the tied for the overall favorite at this race coming in, and we haven't even seen these cars take any laps this season
Yep.
says a lot. And I mean, Vegas doesn't like to lose. So, I mean, if they're putting that much faith in this team, it also says a lot to where he landed, though. So
Correct.
let's talk about that because if you remember last year, guys and gals that are watching, and Don, I know you know, but the Clash winner last year was Denny Hamlin and Joe Gibbs Racing.
Correct.
So, um, and oh, by the way, Joe Gibbs Racing also runs just historically really well at these Clash races
Yep.
since they went out to this quarter mile race out in LA. Again, it's slightly different, but it's slightly the same. So you may be able to expect a lot of the same. And it's no coincidence that at plus 900 right behind him is last year's winner, Denny Hamlin.
Yep.
Um, Christopher Bell also tied with him. So there you go, three Gibbs guys right off the jump, and then Ty Gibbs at plus 1200. So the Gibbs stable of drivers is getting a lot of love this weekend from Vegas.
Correct.
So without seeing any teams turn any laps, it's pretty impressive showing for the JGR guys coming right out of the chute, expecting to see some speed and expecting to see those cars out front and competing for a win here at Bowman Gray. I wouldn't be shocked to see any of those drivers win a race. We'll get into our picks a little later, but yeah, I mean that's just very impressive. And sprinkled right there is Joey Logano, who won this Clash a couple years ago. And again, you mentioned Kyle Larson, being one of the favorites. It makes absolute perfect sense. The guy can win in anything, anywhere. So
Uh,
and Hendrick.
I have a feeling we're going to be dealing with a Kyle Larson driving with a chip on his shoulder. Normally, Kyle Larson drives very, very, even keeled and he is, business. But I think the way his season shut down last year, we're going to see an even more inspired Kyle Larson, which could spell trouble for a lot of other drivers.
It could, and Hendrick Motorsports is no slouch either. If NASCAR, if you want to consider, NASCAR having elite teams in the sport, and the teams that just, I mean, historically, let's just call it what it is. Hendrick Motorsports is historically an elite team. Okay, so they have all the capabilities, the tools, the technology to get it done. So yeah, no shocker there. We talk about this Bowman Gray, and we talk about Kyle Larson being a favorite. And one of the reasons I kind of like that, is this race has an interesting setup, Don, with the format. It's something that if you haven't had a chance to go on, you can find this information on NASCAR.com. But we're going to give it to you here, break it down because this is important. This is not your typical race here. It's not just get and go, fastest car wins necessarily. This is uh, and why I say I like it for Kyle Larson is that it favors people who are used to heat races. Okay,
Correct.
and Kyle Larson races dirt, where he just won a Chili Bowl, so he's very familiar with coming through heat races and keeping your car up front to transfer and make the final event. I'm sure we could certainly see an instance, a very rare instance, where an elite top tier driver doesn't make this main event. But when we break down this format, I think we'll see that it's probably unlikely that a guy like Kyle Larson misses this race. But let's get to it. I mean, let's break down this event here. So we got practice and qualifying, which will start on Saturday, February 1st. It will be live on FS1, and the heat race starting position will equal the fastest practice time in the final session. Okay, so NASCAR splitting this field into three practice groups, each group receiving 3 sessions, and then each competitor's fastest lap time from their final practice session will determine the starting lineup for their heat race,
Okay.
or for the heat races.
That seems
Um,
enough.
yeah. So, and then, we move into those heat races, which there will be four of them. So the heat race lineups are set by the fastest practice time and final practice session. As I said, each heat race will be 25 laps. Okay. So, um, and then based off of those heat races, the finish positions will be divided up. So, as far as starting positions are concerned. So the fastest practice time in the final session will get a pull for heat one. The second fastest practice time will get a pull for heat two, then heat three, so on and so forth. The top five drivers from each heat race advance through to the clash.
Okay.
Okay, so
See people
um,
here real quick. We're talking about 25 laps on a quarter-mile track in the next gen car. These cars are quick, man. They will click off laps really fast. So these
right.
heat races aren't going to be any slouch, man. These guys are going to be getting after it right from the jump.
Right. It's going to be white knuckled, elbows up,
Let's go.
and just let's go. There's one way around the track, and that's forward.
Yep.
So, and if you're in
Listen,
the
I
front,
wouldn't be
if
surprised, man. I wouldn't be
yeah,
surprised if we see quite a few people get dumped in these heat races.
yeah.
It's gonna get hairy in a hurry. That's for sure.
I think so. And I really like this format because it creates that level of excitement and that sense of urgency from the driver. You strap in, you get in, you go. That message from brain to foot and steering wheel is I gotta go, I gotta get around these guys. You can't
Yep.
hold me up. And if you do, I'm probably gonna get close enough to you. I'm gonna put the bumper on you.
Correct.
So it is exciting now. And this is a non-points race too, so it's not like anybody's jeopardizing seasons here. But again, we got to keep in mind top five. You don't want to mess yourself up and jeopardize a starting spot in this clash.
Right.
Um, Now there is a last chance qualifier,
Okay.
and that will be on Sunday, February 2nd.
Okay.
And that will be live on Fox. So on Saturday, FS1, Sunday, Fox. Easy enough to remember. But February 2nd will be the last chance qualifier first. So the remaining five finishing positions from each heat race, the guys who didn't get in, will go through the last chance qualifier race with their starting position that will be determined by where they finished in their heat races. And again, they're all numbered out. I'm not going to go through for the sake of time and just read every,
Right.
starting position in each qualifier, but it's a 75 lap race and only green flag laps count. There are no overtime. The
Love it.
top two, the top two from the last chance qualifier advance through to the clash.
I
So
absolutely love the format. I think it's going to bring back that nostalgia feel of Saturday night racing. Now, not all the races are going to be on Saturday night, but we still get the heat races, man. Everybody's driving for something on Sunday. Everybody
right.
wants to get to Sunday and lift up that trophy. I'm so excited for this entire weekend, man. It's going to be awesome.
Yeah, and if you have a good Saturday, you're breathing a little easier coming into Sunday,
Right.
knowing that you don't have to compete in that last chance qualifier, where I definitely think people are going to use the bumper. But yeah, the top two advance. However, I do want to mention, so the top 22, okay, so there's going to be 23 drivers that start the Clash main event.
Okay.
22 drivers lock in through their finishes in the heat race and the last chance qualifier.
Okay.
Um, then the lineup for the clash is established as listed, but the 23rd spot, and it's the final spot, is reserved for the driver who finished the highest in 2024 season point standings that did
Oh,
not transfer on their
oh,
finishing position.
gonna throw a
So,
little curveball in the race, man. I love it.
so who says points don't matter, right?
Right.
Um,
And that sticks mind moving forward. If they're going to start doing this, they could do it again in the fall, in the seasons following. So I love it. And I'm glad you
yeah,
brought up the point system too. I know a lot of people have been, it's been kind of a frustrating thing for fans of certain teams that don't necessarily get as far in the playoffs as maybe they could have. But I think the system is good. I you and I have discussed on occasion about maybe switching up the final round, and it's something else that's bounced around on social media about maybe give us the trifecta for a final round. Give us a short track, give us a huge track, and give us a road course in that final round. Road course, obviously not last, but also, and get
mhm,
all three facets in there. That way, it's an accumulated points thing, not just one race with the four drivers with their season on the line. We saw the top four championship drivers last year at Phoenix Reddick was clearly the weakest of the four, and he still only finished, I think, if I remember correctly, sixth or seventh place. And everybody else finished ahead of him. So putting all of your nuts and bolts into one race at the end of the season just because you made your championship might not be the best way to crown a champion. Granted, Joey Logano is your 2024 NASCAR Cup champion. Nobody's taking that away from him, and nobody's taking away what he accomplished. But maybe there are some instances where it could be adjusted to better suit and better, crown a champion, I guess.
Right, and I'm glad you said that because I'm just going to put it out there right now. NASCAR says they're not changing a thing for this year.
That's
The
right.
port, the point system and the playoff format will remain the absolute same,
Yep.
and they'll continue to monitor through the competition committee and all those things, and see if they need to make some changes in the future. Um, I do agree about maybe changing the site of the final race. You know, it doesn't need to always be at Phoenix,
Right.
um, but if you wanted to do a cumulative championship round instead of how you have your round of 8, your round of you know your round of 12 and round of
Right.
16, all that stuff. You could have your final four, race it off in a couple races rather than just one. Yeah, I kind of like that idea as well. And then that would just mean backing up the playoffs, making it start a little earlier so you can account for that. But yeah, there's all types of different theories and ways you could do that. But I do like that points matter as far as that final spot. I'm curious to see who it's going to be, who's going to be there. And I have to dig deeper too because what if your car gets dumped and you're absolute trash? You're allowed to roll out the backup and come into this race. I feel bad we didn't do the homework, but I don't think NASCAR put it in there for us either. I really have not seen that rule. I looked, um, just like
From what
I looked
from
about the tires too that they're going to run. I didn't see anything about that either. So
I didn't see anything on the tires. From what I understand, as far as backups, all the teams are bringing a backup car on a separate trailer.
to
So
share.
to share in case somebody needs it. Now, the good thing is with the Clash being in North Carolina, everybody's shops are a jump, hop, and a skip right down the road. So if one team happens to need two backups, which I don't think is likely, but it could happen, their shops and their facilities are right down the road, so they can get a backup car when they need to. That still doesn't mean that driver's going to make the race. So there's a lot
Right.
into it, man. It's going to be fun, that's for sure.
Especially if you get dumped in that last chance qualifier and you were there and had an opportunity and then you got wrecked and so it's going to be wild. It's going to see going to have to see how these boys play with each other out there on that racetrack and
Yeah.
it's going to be really really fun to see. So yeah, 23 drivers start this main event. It's a 200 lap race, guys. 200 laps, like you said, they're going to click off quick, but caution laps do not count. At lap 100, there will be a halftime. So it's a competition break after lap 100, and again, only green flag laps are going to count, and the race must finish under green. Love it, love it,
I,
love it, love it. And that's it. Just this feels like dirt racing format to me, and I love dirt racing. So I'm a fan of this. I think it's going to be fun. I think it's going to be action packed and exciting because you just don't have a lot of time to capitalize on your opportunities. So if you see an opening underneath somebody, if somebody gives a little wiggle, you got to get to them.
yep.
You got to get around them, and it's going to be quite interesting to see how this all plays out for sure.
I would definitely say that we're going to see your aggressive drivers, fans of your aggressive drivers. You know who you are. They're going to crank up that aggressiveness even more. And I would say fans of the more timid drivers, I would say that there's an opportunity that they're going to get moved out of the way more often than not. So this is one of those things where you got to be aggressive if you're going to be successful. And some of these guys are really capable of it.
Absolutely. So we get back. We talked a little about it, the Vegas favorites for this race, Don. Now I'm curious, who are your favorites for this race? I want you to give me um, a dark horse and a favorite. Not and see where your head's at, and then I'll give you mine as well. And of course, this is so tough because there's heat races, and what if our guys don't even make it?
I
Oh
know.
man.
I know. We're not even guaranteed to make it past Saturday with our picks, man. That makes it pretty crazy, doesn't it?
It does, but I love it. I love it. If you're a bet man, this is a race where you got to pucker up a little bit if you put some money on one of these drivers and hope they make it through and get into that 23 drivers.
Absolutely. It's going to be an absolute crapshoot. I cannot wait for it. You asked for my dark horse. I love that you asked for my dark horse. I really want to take a look at Chase Elliott. Chase Elliott, I feel like, has had two just abysmal seasons. You talk about his win at Texas in 2024, April. He won in the Hooters car, the last
Hmm.
time that Hooters car will be run, and he won in it. That's pretty incredible. He was battling
Yeah.
Ross, and if I remember correctly, Bubba was there at the end of that race. But I really think Chase Elliott is going to be racing with a more of an urgency. I think maybe his seat might not be as safe as it could be if he was racing better these days. We're talking about a guy that won the championship in 2020 before another season before the next gen car hit, and he just has not performed as well in the next gen car as he did in the Gen 6. I look for Chase to start turning that around this season, and he's going to be my dark horse for the Clash this weekend because he is so talented at short tracks.
All right. And then who's your favorite?
My favorite, man, you want to talk about people that are going to have a chip on their shoulder. We talked about Kyle Larson missing the championship for last season, and that was with 6 wins on the season. That's pretty hard to do. But somebody else that missed out on the championship for, and somebody I think is going to be he's going to be taking names all season long. He's not messing around anymore. That's going to be Mr. Christopher Bell, man. He's got, like you said, with the dirt track style that we're working with, I think that's going to play into his favor really well. I think he's going to show tremendous speed, and he's always insanely fast at Martinsville, which is the kind of the comparison we were using. Give me Christopher Bell to take the Clash win on Sunday if he makes it through all the hoopla, of course. Uh,
Oh,
about you,
I
man?
love those picks. I love those picks of yours. I really do.
Thank you, thank you.
It is, and it is hard to pick against, you know, um, a JGR driver, a Hendrick driver. So my first pick will be somebody that's not that. Um,
Okay,
Actually, I lied. I'm gonna take my dark horse pick is is one who Vegas has tied to favor. I am gonna roll a little bit with this 19 team and Chase Briscoe.
okay,
The guy has a moxie about him, and he knows how to get it done at short tracks.
yep.
JGR knows how to get it done at a short track and does really well at this type of racetrack. So there's no reason in the world why you can't go out there and win it on your debut. So go get him, Chase Briscoe. Let Vegas be right, right? I mean, they're never wrong. So I'm gonna actually take him as my dark horse, though.
And go
Um,
another dirt driver. Just
yeah,
throwing that.
just saying. Um, my favorite for this race is somebody who is a champion in this sport. He's got it done on the short tracks, and especially in those gotta have it moments at Martinsville. And I'm gonna go with the 12 and Ryan Blaney.
Love it.
Um, Ryan Blaney and Penske Motorsports, they just do so well at this style racetrack as well. The short track package is really good for those cars, as we saw at Phoenix, because Phoenix is actually a track where they run a short track package, even though it's more of an intermediate track. But
Yep.
Phoenix, the Martinsvilles, they're always there. They're always contending. Yeah, there's just something about Blaney and the 12 team this weekend that I really like. So there it is. I mean, and it shouldn't shock anybody if he's a favorite or sitting in victory lane come Sunday evening when the clash is all over and said and done with.
I absolutely love that pick. Now, what's really interesting, and I don't remember if we mentioned this earlier, but I'm going to mention it again now, is of the top 7 favorite in odds, 4 of them are the JGR guys. I think that really should raise some eyebrows as far as the bettors go, and what Vegas sees as far as JGR heading into this clash. That there's no accident that 4 of these guys, including Ty Gibbs, who hasn't even won a race before. So
Right.
we're talking about a kid that hasn't won a race, incredibly talented, not taking anything away from Ty, but in the top 7 in the odds this weekend. That's really awesome. And that just says a lot about JGR as a whole.
Yeah, and then when you sprinkle in the rest, your favorite is from Hendrick, but then you do have Logano and Blaney in there,
Yep.
sitting right in the mix with those JGR guys. And then you actually have a guy like Kyle Busch and William Byron, you know, um, So it's going to be interesting to see. And again, this format is the ultimate wild card because we really don't know how it's going to play out. And then starting position is going to be so key because
Yep.
it's going to be harder to pass. So you don't want to start this race in the back
Yep.
because I mean you're half a lap down already as soon as the green flag drops. It seems like.
Right.
So
You're absolutely right. That track is
yeah,
so short that you're literally basically coming out of the back straightaway, and the leader is already headed into turn one when the green flag drops. So it's a lot about track position and a lot about getting your booty up to the front before you can't.
yeah,
So
yeah. The format's exciting, a lot of new faces and new places. And again, we're going to cover all that leading up to Daytona. But we'll break this one down afterwards, and we'll get into our 2025 preview because there's so many exciting things for the 2025 NASCAR season. There are so many exciting things for the 2025 five lug racing season that we want to get into.
absolutely.
We may not have been on air, but we've been hard at work, and we're so excited when we get the chance to talk to you about some of the things that we've been able and fortunate to be able to do. But yeah, stay tuned. Make sure you like and subscribe at Five Lug Racing. We're on YouTube, we're on Instagram, we're on Facebook. Make sure you check us out. We appreciate you being here for another great season.
Absolutely. Ryan, another great episode. It's the first one of 2025. We're shutting it down now, but I'm so excited to be back. I'm so excited we have racing this weekend. Uh, my
Same.
heart my heart is pounding right now, and it's not even the race weekend yet. Like, I'm just so jazzed up about it. I'm excited for the race season. I'm excited to be doing this with you for the second season. And man, let's just get after it. Let's have a great year. Thank you to all of our followers and subscribers, everybody that has stuck with us the last I guess, almost 7 months now. You guys are our rock. You guys are what makes us go. So thank you so much for continuing to be there for us. Like Ryan was saying, drop a like down there, drop some comments, man. We want to know who y'all think is going to win this thing. We want to know what y'all like and dislike about the Clash being moved to North Carolina rather than LA. Talk to us about it. Engage with us. We would love to hear from you. But yeah, man, I'm excited for this weekend. I'm excited to break it down with you next week when it's all said and done. Ryan, myself, Don, thank you guys, everyone here at Five Lug Racing, and we'll see you at the next one. Y'all have a great night.